Hello everyone, hope you're having a great day. I have a few more additions to the movie and television collection to go through. I did a separate video on the Star Trek Original Series 55th Anniversary Blu-ray Steelbook set, because that is beautiful and deserves its own video. And this video is kind of some odds and ends that fill in and finish up a lot of collections. If you are new to the channel, I am a big movie and television collector, and I sold a lot of my old gaming collection that I just don't have the time to go back to a lot of those to help with the goal of finishing this year as lots of things disappear or prices go out of control. The television and movie collection on DVD and Blu-ray. Older things like Laserdisc and Star Trek as a separate thing will be in the future, but I'm hoping by the end of next year to be finished up pretty much everything else, and definitely a goal that is quickly becoming not just possible, but is being close to finished. It'll be interesting. I think it's been a fun ride, and if you guys have been enjoying it, you will likely see me get to that point next year, as Amanda and I have been whittling down these things that we want to complete our personal library, really. Just stuff that we want and we love and want to have for ourselves. Not really into keeping a mega library of everything. There are some movie collectors out there that have 10,000 movies and TV shows, and I find that unyielding and unwatchable, and it's more about preserving for ourselves the things that we love and have an interest in. And start that off with a few cartoon releases, one that we both enjoy, and Amanda, it's probably higher up on her list as far as older cartoons that she loves, because she's not as into Hanna-Barbera the way I am, but she really liked this show, and as a fan of the Pink Panther, I of course had to get into this show back in the day. But we have Inspector Gadget, Season 1, Volumes 1 and 2, and this is really all we wanted for that show. Again, it's one of those of many shows where we don't necessarily want the whole thing. There's just a certain collection of episodes or an era of a show that we enjoy and want to go back to. And that's what it was for this show. Enjoyable, a lot of fun, very creative, and what's nice is that this Season 1 set, the Volume 1 collection, includes the original pilot, where he actually looked more like Inspector Clouseau with the mustache and everything. The design was then changed. But it includes that episode, which is really cool. It's a neat little piece of history. So that's a fun cartoon. And in that same vein, the only Pink Panther movie that we did not own on DVD, one we just had a VHS tape of, my dad's old VHS tape, for many, many years. Never came across it, and it's not included in any of the collections that we have. Got the older MGM release with the black background to match my other Pink Panthers. We have Son of the Pink Panther. And out of all of the non-Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies, I think this might be my favorite. Again, it doesn't hold up to the Peter Sellers ones, but it's not a complete dud like a lot of the other ones are. Inspector Clouseau with Alan Arkin, even ones like Trail and things that are used from excess footage after Peter Sellers' death, and of course any of the newer ones. A lot of those are just bad. Curse is okay, again, just kind of like, it's alright, that one as well. But Son of the Pink Panther was good, and Herbert Lom gives a great performance. Claudia Cardinale is fantastic as well. So there's a lot of good performances to where the lead, which is better than most of the other ones, doesn't have to completely hold up the entire movie by himself. But yes, Blake Edwards did a good job holding that together, I think, as a director as well, keeping it in the same vein, but at the same time realizing that you have a different star, you have to hold things a little differently. Some of the scenes can't just be it can't just be a parody of Peter Sellers. It has to be a little bit of its own thing, and it works out pretty well. So I do like that movie. And then one that is going to lead to a fun collection video, especially for a lot of film snobs out there, my type of people. We have the last title that I want in what is currently available on the Criterion collection. Criterion is a fantastic premiere label. There are a lot of good movies that have Criterions, though, that I am just perfectly fine with the DVD or Blu-ray, the non-Criterion that I have. Sometimes it's just not as much of an upgrade if I already own the movie. And so my Criterion collection doesn't encompass every movie that I like that has a Criterion. But this is the last Criterion movie that I was looking for. So Sullivan's Travels, and I'll have to watch this with Amanda, because it stars Veronica Lake, and we just recently watched I Married a Witch, and yeah, she absolutely loved that movie, and I enjoy it as well. It's actually one that almost made my top 50. It was really high, and especially in rewatching it, I'm like, it was very close. It probably should have been in the bottom of the top 50. But yeah, Veronica Lake is great. I enjoy her in more comedic roles, I think even more so than in the film noir type stuff. Even though I do really enjoy her in those roles and have a few of her films in that category. Movies like This Gun for Hire or The Glass Key, that kind of stuff, she's great in those, but I definitely prefer her in I Married a Witch and Sullivan's Travels. Sullivan's Travels is hilarious. It was a great early 40s film. I definitely think that even though the 80s is my favorite decade of film in downright quality that was being churned out, the 30s into the early 40s was probably the peak of Hollywood. Just amazing, amazing stuff coming out of there. Fun release. Again, you get your little essay and some additional artwork. A lot of fun. But yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this probably this weekend with Amanda. I think that'll be really good because she loved Veronica Lake in her first experience with her. I was like, alright, that's a similar movie as far as tone. Yeah, definitely not in plot or anything like that, so definitely check that out. And speaking of the 30s, we have a classic from the 30s from one of the greatest directors of that decade, Frank Capra, the 80th anniversary. It's crazy to think of. Some of my favorite movies are approaching their 100th anniversary in this current decade. Nuts. But the 80th anniversary of Mr. Deeds Goes to Town with Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur. Another one that is both a fantastic comedy and a really good period piece. And nice special features. We have commentary by Frank Capra Jr. and Frank Capra Jr. Remembers, vintage advertising gallery, original theatrical teaser. So a lot of good stuff. And this is a nice fully restored 4K really good release. I have heard a lot of good things about this one, so I really wanted to grab. It's a movie I didn't own a copy of, and looking at reviews from people who enjoy this movie as well, this seemed to be the copy to go with, especially for cheap. It's the movie that on sale was less than $15, so it's not expensive or anything like that. It's one you can get your hands on pretty easily. Fantastic movie. And there are two more things here, and one brings up a topic of sorts. We'll say that for last. And the last one, I'm going to clear these out of the way, as this next one is a bit of an unboxing. We have from Millcreek, who has become one of my favorite companies in the past 5 or 6 years. They've moved on from being the company of the 50 movie packs, which are always fun, a great cheap way of getting a ton of interesting movies that you might not be able to get your hands on otherwise, some of them. But they have turned into a premiere label for a lot of TV shows. If you haven't watched my review on Charlie's Angels, one of my favorite Blu-ray box sets is the Millcreek Charlie's Angels Blu-ray set. It is a huge upgrade from the Sony DVDs. And if you're into Ultraman, they've been going nuts with Ultraman releases, steelbooks, and all kinds of stuff, and remasters. I just did I Dream of Jeannie. I'm really hoping they do Bewitched next. But tons of different TV shows. And aside from those big premiere, restored, steelbook sometimes releases, they also still do very high quality, compact releases of TV shows, to where it's a show that maybe you don't want a big collector's edition, but you like it enough that you want the whole show. You can get a good Millcreek set for a lot of them for very cheap and in a very small set. So you got Sliders, the complete series. Yes, the entire thing in this little set. John Rhys Davies in the back here. He's amazing. So many great things. And Jerry O'Connell. Fantastic. This is a very, very fun show. I think it was at its best the first 2 seasons, but this is all 5 seasons of the show. in this nice little set from Millcreek. And I got this a little while ago, just haven't brought it up, in a sale attached through deepdiscount.com, so it was shipped less than $20 for the entire series. And again, this is this kind of thing where it's a great way of grabbing a complete set of the series. If you're a big collector and it's a favorite show of yours, it's probably not the way you want to go, because again, it is a cheaper material, but it's a nice hardy box. It's not flimsy at all. It's actually thick cardboard, and it is the discs in just these cardboard sleeves on either side. So it's one of those that they slide out pretty nicely, though they don't seem to rub. So again, Millcreek is one of those companies that is good for a couple of different reasons. They still have their cheap releases, just good ways of getting the whole collection of something for a low price and a nice compact little set, and they've also have more like premium line stuff. And the last thing is a TV show release that brings up one of the obstacles that is facing a lot of physical media now. As we've talked about many times, there are a lot of things like, as you can probably see in top here, Twilight Time and all kinds of different things are just completely gone. A lot of movies have made it to the point where they're probably never going to see another physical release again. Some things stopped at VHS and Laserdisc, other ones at DVD, and then they got fewer with Blu-ray. Now getting into 4K, it's really just a lot of the same super popular movies and studio classics that are re-released every time there's a new format. We're getting down to those things, and a lot of other movies are pretty much gone for good, and TV shows as well. It's the same thing, where they maybe are on a streaming service, but might leave that service, or they're uploading the wrong aspect ratio, or edited because of rights with music and that type of thing, and will likely never get physical releases again. And many TV shows are completely disappearing, and there are some TV shows where just a very basic standard DVD set might run you a couple $100 just because that's it, and it was never put on anything else again. And the other obstacle now is print on demand. There are a lot of titles, DVD and Blu-ray, that are maybe getting a physical release, but it is only a mod release, a manufactured on-demand release. And those, I do not like those. I do not like supporting them. There's far greater chance of errors, and there's less permanency to a burned disc. It's a professionally, quote-unquote burned disc, but if you have the right equipment, it's not far off from what you can make on your own at home, and not the same as a pressed disc. And there are a lot of shows that have gone that route, if they even get there. You have some classic shows like I Love Lucy. I'll pull these out because they're right here, where they stopped after 2 seasons. These Ultimate Edition Blu-ray sets are amazing. They have so many great features. They look great, sound great, and then they stopped after 2. Other shows have not received a treatment at all. And then other ones, like this, Charmed, the complete first season. This is a great set, really enjoy it. The big problem is, this is it. The rest of Charmed is only being manufactured on demand, on those burned discs, on mod discs. The season 1, they released in full on a factory pressed disc, slipcover, and that was it. And we have a nice release with some inner artwork, really good quality release overall. But that is it. This only season 1 is being manufactured on Blu-ray as a complete full retail press disc release. That's it. It's done. Seasons 2, 3, I think 4 and 5 maybe even at this point have been released, but only again on the manufacturer on demand service. So that's another big problem as well. And things have slowly been going out of print. I know on one of the reseller groups, someone was selling a set of the X-Files on Blu-ray, and holy crap, even just copies of seasons of the X-Files have shot up tremendously, and a lot of shows like that. are just gone. So the mod service is really just, it's nice in one respect to where, hey, at least you can get some kind of release of something if you're looking for it, rather than only trying to stream it or pirate it in some form or whatever. But at the same time, grabbing a manufactured on demand disc, I might as well just burn and copy, one of my own copies on an older format at home. And frequently those are, occasionally you'll get one that's better than just a transfer from like a VHS tape or something, but a lot of times that's about what they are quality wise. And again, it varies, but pretty frequently they do not put any extra effort into them, and there's a high failure rate from certain, especially from certain companies. But yeah, just not a practice that I like to support. And it is sad to see that some things get put up and people get excited for, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be released, and then it's only manufactured on demand. But if you are interested in Charmed, a show that I really, really enjoy, because I love anything with witches, so it is good to be able to get the first season, but beware that that's about it, unless you're okay with grabbing the manufactured on demand discs, which I do have to say they are charging the same amount for those as a full-fledged retail release. That's another thing too. So the state of physical releases for a lot of media is not so great. I mean, it's hard to think of. It hasn't really even been around that long. The idea of being able to own for years and years and years an actual copy of a movie or a TV show, that concept really isn't very old, especially for us, younger folks. I'm only in my mid-30s. It's hard to imagine, but aside from re-releases to theaters and the few people that would have had film collections, like actually like on film, 16 millimeter more likely, it was not common until the very end of the 70s, more like in the early 80s, to be able to get copies of movies and TV shows. And even then, it wasn't affordable for a lot of people at that point. It's really only been, less than 40 years where that has been a more common, affordable thing to own copies of your favorite movies and TV shows. And we slowly see that fading away with the rise of streaming services. And the biggest effect, I think, will be preservation for a lot of things. So we will see what the future holds, but it's at least cool to be able to get certain releases that have come out for some favorites.